You going up to the camera? See how good that looks. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, you've got an orange bit on the front, so it's not going to...
Hi, I'm Jamie Pritchard,
Ed Roberts.
and we are two recent graduates from MMU, Manchester Metropolitan University, from the Contemporary Theatre and Performance course.
On the course, we worked with and we developed close ties with Neil Mackenzie of Playing Performance and Flair Festival. We worked very closely with Kevin Egan of Reckless Sleepers. We worked with Nancy Riley of the Worcester Group, Lenta van der Kries of Horse, Good God and Guillotine. She was in that, wasn't she?
Worked with Reckless Sleepers.
Worked with Reckless Sleepers and helped develop Negative Space, which is their most recent piece.
Also, in our final year, this year, we just graduated in the summer, I personally worked alongside Michael Pinchbeck, who was well known for Bolero and The Man Who Flew into Space from His Apartments.
And I worked with Anna Fenimore on my director project, who is renowned for Pigeon Theatre, and she's also a professor at Leeds Uni. And is very clever.
Very clever. We've been working together for 3 years now, throughout our time at MMU, and we have collaborated 5 times in total.
Yeah, so we two main pieces are this, and I suppose to consider its sister piece, which is a piece called 5 minutes 20 seconds. We've also worked on a piece called Mancraft, which was our final project in our third year. We did a piece called Blame together, which was directed by Kevin Egan, and then we did a piece called Structure, which we did as part of a company called Got Balls.
We're both from the Midlands. Ed is from the east side, I'm from the west side. So there's a natural togetherness of that brings us together, being from opposite sides of...
Yeah, well, we're both people who are quite proud of being... What would you call someone? A Midlander? Yeah, we're both proud of being Midlandish. And we have this sort of underlying frustration that everyone seems to identify themselves as being northern or southern, and we're not. We're in the middle.
The piece is about James Bond, so...
Not specifically about our sort of...
Yeah, about our connections to James Bond, our connections to James Bond growing up, how we were brought up with James Bond, about the 6 different actors to date that have played James Bond.
But officially.
The Bond
universe, I suppose, but also, I mean, it's an autobiographical piece primarily from our own experiences, but also we are lovers of James Bond. We know, well, blowing our own trumpets, we feel we know a lot about him, but also we've done a lot more research into the background.
Wings onto that car.
Yeah.
Timothy Dalton on TV number 4 in The Living Daylights.
Which is Gibraltar, which is the opening scene from his very first Bond film.
Yeah.
Which is when there's the enemy agent who's sort of infiltrated the exercise they're doing on Gibraltar, and he's trying to kill the MI6 agents.
TV number 5, Pierce Brosnan, GoldenEye, when he's chasing after, what's he called, the Russian guy?
Pushkin. No, Pushkin is the Minister of Defence. It starts as a piece which is very based in sort of the factual world of Bond, isn't it?
And how Bond is this and Bond is that and Bond is everything growing up as a male you want or you aspire to be or you desire in life. And then as it goes on, it starts to discover how Bond isn't actually as truthful as it should be, and we start to realise how it is flawed in many ways, such as...
So I feel like I'm giving away the whole... There's an interview Sean Connery did in 1987 where he talks about it being acceptable. In fact, he uses the word right. He says it's right to hit a woman, which is obviously completely and utterly atrocious, and it's something which really, when we saw it,
knocks us back, because that is someone we've looked up to, that's someone we idolised, that's someone we wanted to be him, and then we wanted to be like him, and then we wanted to play the same parts as him when we were deluded enough to think we could act. And then even now we're still making a piece centred around him, and he thinks it's okay to hit a woman. And all the way through, when we are idolising, when we're talking about, in really quite a fun and enjoyable and entertaining way, about how Bond is fun, all the way through there's this little niggling doubt about the fact that it isn't a good thing. And I suppose that's by what we're doing in that is we're commenting on, in many ways, what we do every 2, 3, 4 years when a new Bond film comes out. We personally, and en masse across not only Britain but the world, we go along and we sit down and we enjoy the ride, we enjoy watching Bond, and we just forget that it's awful.
Our age, when you asked us what we would aspire to be when we grew up, it was either a professional footballer 99% of the time, or to work for MI6 to be James Bond, because those were just two. It was just all you knew, wasn't it?
No, it isn't. It's our generation, as those people who are just coming out of education. We're in that position where we're mature. We're as mature as we're going to be ever. We're adults. We're finding our way, sort of completely and utterly in life, but we still want to be little kids and be like Bond. But our dads were like it. Because, like I said, my dad's the same age as Bond. He, all the way through his life, has grown up loving James Bond. We've got something which really is quite universal. It isn't just for our generation and how they've idolised James Bond. We've got 54 years of both sexes wanting to be Bond or wanting to be with Bond. And it is all for the wrong reason, and that's what we want to try and just point out.
On top of that as well, we're going to point out that, well, we realise that Bond has these many flaws, and the people that play Bond say these wrong things, or have done this in their lifetime or that in their lifetime, but there is still something in the back of our heads that no matter how wrong these people are that have played Bond and how wrong these people are as individuals, you just cannot stop being attached or with Bond in some way, shape, or form. There's always that connection with Bond, even if you've only seen like one Bond scene in your life, or you've followed the whole. How many films is there now? 25 altogether. You will always have some connection with Bond.
Yeah,
it's the theme tune, or the actor itself, or the Bond girl.
I think the best way to put it, I mean, it's a cultural addiction. Obviously, it came from the 60s, the generation where pop culture came into being. And obviously the mainstream media was really kicking into action then, and that kind of thing, and the entire world is still addicted to this fantasy of a man who was frustrated in the war and had to stay behind a desk when he wanted to be going out there, he wanted to be killing people, he wanted to be making love to women, and he had to stay behind a desk. It says there's a documentary called Everything or Nothing about Bond, and it's a really quite nice and almost poetic way of putting it about Casino Royale. But for Ian Fleming, it's the autobiography of a dream. It's the autobiography of the man he'd like to be. If his internal thought, his subliminal thoughts, all the things you, in civilized society, you wouldn't articulate, the fact that you're obsessed with drink and violence and sex and speed and that kind of thing, the things you don't say, that's what Bond is. It's all the pieces of masculinity which really
are wrong.
Yeah, well, wrong, and when things are civilized, are not put forward. You should not drink excessively. You should not use anyone, especially, in my opinion, women, obviously. You should not be violent. And that's what Bond celebrates. He drinks too much. In the old ones, he smokes too much. He uses women. He drives too fast, he kills people. These are all atrocious things, and yet we sit there and we laugh it up.
We go into stories.
Yep.
So I tell my story of my connection to James Bond itself. So should I tell it now?
Well, but yeah, just sort of say it.
So when I was a child and we used to live in the old house, there was a certain one of 3 routes we could take to my grandma's house. And then as you pass through Stourbridge and you go straight over the island, past Mary Stevens Park, you come onto a road called the Norton Road. And you go down there for a couple of miles, and then on the right hand side there's a big house. And that was where my mother used to tell me where Sean Connery lived many, many moons ago. So there was always that excitement of when I was a kid, when I was going to Nan's for Sunday roast or stop in the night. I just literally just wanted to go just so I could see that big massive house on the right hand side, and that was something that. So it's not just our love for Bond and us looking into Bond.
It's a funny piece as well.
It's a funny piece.
It's not always, that makes it all sound quite serious, doesn't it? It's not.
It's
It's nice, and we've got music in it, and we muck about a bit, and it is a very quick, fast, and it is a very fast-paced piece, and it is sort of the equivalent of running at full pelt. The whole piece is non-stop, and it is momentum. And although we talk about serious things, it doesn't get bogged down in it, because they almost get caught up in the melee. They get caught up in just a continuous movement of scenes, which I suppose is a little bit like what actually happens with the serious things involved. They just get caught up in the PR and the marketing of the film, and they just get tunneled in, because they just get you just get driven at the one thing, which is the film.
Trying to make it as awkward and as uncomfortable as possible for us and the audience at the same time.
But at the end of the piece, as we've heard all these bad things about Bond, we're going to have the iconic Bond music come into the background and steadily get louder and louder as the telly's changed to all of them saying Bond will return, because we believe it will. It's the kind of music where you can't keep a straight face to it, and we believe it will invoke in the audience the contradictions we have in ourselves, such as we know Bond is bad, but we still
can't get rid of it.
We still can't get rid of it. We still
be honest when our own personal experience and past experiences have brought us together, and we've both shared an interest in this particular topic.
Yeah, and I think also it's a piece with there's no front to it. The audience is never under a false pretense. I think to a certain extent it does a disservice, but we're on stage and we are ourselves. And yes, we are performing, so we are a performance persona. But at the core of it, we are just
2 young lads.
Yeah, we're 2 mates who made a piece about Bond. And then we have a chat about it, and then we make some scenes, which are basically just for chats, and then
we hold a few tellies.
And hopefully there might be an audience who are watching it. But it's basically just the conversations we would have anyway put onto a stage.